And we're live. No CJ.
CJ-less.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I know that no one hates. No one. It's like hearing what your dream was last night, or what your Halloween costume is, or something. But I had such a fucking miserable travel experience, and I know everybody has that. It's just it's so bad.
Nowadays.
They made it so bad. They made it so bad. It's the worst. It is truly torture.
And
And they don't
the
give a
worst
shit.
part, because I had a bad one, and it was the day of like 2 storms ago or whatever. So I can sort of like whatever. At the time, I understood why it was bad. The worst part is you want to be angry, but the people right in front of you,
Of course not.
it's not their fault.
No, and they were great.
Yeah.
It wasn't their fault, and they were doing their best.
But it's
So I wasn't mad at them, but I was just
so you want to be mad at somebody.
Yeah,
you know?
somebody, everybody. So I think we should storm the gates of any airline. You can pick one.
We're not going to do that.
But if I didn't make a specific threat, then it doesn't count.
Wow, your whole bit now is threats.
Yeah, that's the vibe. The
vague
vibe is threats.
Yeah.
It's hot threat summer. Yeah. We had a layover from Raleigh because my nephew had a baseball tournament at Duke. So me and my dad and my sisters met him there for a few days. And the flight is from Raleigh to Los Angeles. And the layover was in Boston. Like, how could that be?
Yeah.
There has to be a better way. I'm not a geography expert, but taking the Glenn Robinson III, Alec Burks path to Philadelphia, it just can't happen. It just cannot. There's no way. Because the whole flight to Raleigh, which was delayed, I was mad because I'm like, we're going backwards. We're going backwards. The Raleigh to Boston flight, I was just like, I'm upset. This is ridiculous. Infuriating. And then it was delayed and delayed and delayed. And our flight didn't take off from Boston until like 1:45 in the morning. And so I landed in LA at like almost 5 a.m.
There you go.
Like a reverse red eye.
There you go.
That was tough. That was tough. But I'm okay now. I bounced
Good to
back.
hear. I'm glad that you got back.
I'm still making threats.
Yes.
Watch
no
out.
vague threats that we do not want anyone to listen to. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Mortgage CS. Become a Mortgage CS Ricky VIP by going to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process, briggsauction.com. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. And Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, James Harden, ready to make things uncomfortable. Joel Embiid gets married. We will scrutinize Mike's offseason redo of Daryl's offseason that he put in the newsletter. And Mike gets to hear the Tenant song that he was not here for, Sixers Adam, and the Coach Mike song and the Basketball Mike song.
Oh, no.
3 listener songs that Mike did not hear.
Oh, no.
Yes. Kinetic skateboarding, I did mention. We love kinetic skateboarding. We're about halfway through the summer, which is wild. It's not a bad time to start planning for your hoodie fall. Hoodie fall is great planning over at Kinetic Skateboarding. And there are a few Ricky X prints left. You can't get the t-shirt anymore, but there are a few. They were limited to 250. There are a few prints left. Prints done by Abby, 48 Ricky, and Sixers mentions. 6 references. Go to kineticskateboarding.com. If it's your first order, use promo code Dave Silver for 9.1% off. The basketball tournament is back. It is in its 10th year, much like the Ricky, though I guess the Ricky's in its 11th year now. It is coming to Philly for the semifinals, August 2nd and 3rd at Drexel. T-Rob is in the basketball tournament. The Ricky Sanchez, Casper Ware, all in the basketball tournament. Dunk contest is going to be in Philly as well, where you have to dunk on somebody. We have a deal for you for buy one, get one free tickets for the basketball tournament. Go to thetournament.com/TBT/BOGO. Great work there, Jake. And use promo code TBTBOGO for buy one, get one free tickets. That's right. You have to go to a specific link and use a promo code. I will put the link in the description of the pod, and the promo code is TBTBOGO. I forgot I have to do the song. Hang on. Let me find it.
I played basketball with Jake last week.
Oh, you did? How did it go?
My game. He played good.
Good.
Yeah. He's more athletic than I would have guessed. Got some hops on that kid.
What a backhanded compliment that is.
No, I think that's clear. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. I think he would have gotten it, but he gets up. I like
Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who, if you wrong him in any way, will threaten to harm you physically in a vague way. That is one Mike Levin.
I think that's fair.
Yep. We gotta harm somebody. We are without CJ, so if anything goes wrong, we will blame him. Mike, you weren't around as Sixers Adam sat in the last pod for the all three things meeting at once. Joel Embiid saying something dumb, James Harden being annoying, Daryl Morey joking with you at Twitter all at the wrong time. So the obliteration of everyone you missed. But the James Harden thing has continued as Daryl Morey did a radio interview where he talk about being willing to be uncomfortable? I think he did. Willing to be uncomfortable in the allowing the James Harden situation to go on as long as it needs to go for them to get the right return. In response, James Harden posted something on Instagram where it said, "Been comfortable for so long, it's time to get uncomfortable."
Yeah.
Mike, do you have an opinion on James Harden's behavior over the last several weeks where he has opted in to a contract with a team he doesn't want to be on, demanded he go to a team that doesn't seem to want him that much, and then basically send out vague threats that he will be disruptive at camp if he doesn't get what he wants?
Well, it's very unpleasant. I'm not comfortable. That's certainly the word of the offseason.
Yeah.
I'm sure I read Michael Connor's piece on the website today.
Yeah, his evisceration of Daryl, James, and Embiid. Yeah, I love angry MOC.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. He's saying none of these guys have earned the right to act the way they're acting. And he goes one by one to sort of go for that. I might disagree with Joel, but everybody else, it's hard to argue with that. It's just James specifically is the worst actor here of the three of them.
I agree.
I understand that he feels wronged in that there was some sort of handshake agreement with Daryl or the team that if he had did them a solid in some way or another, then they would return the favor with the contract that he wants.
By the way, we're assuming that maybe that happened, but he did not behave in a way during the season in which that agreement was in place, I would say.
What do you mean?
Well, if he was so confident in that, then his team sort of pressuring the Sixers all year with Houston seems to not line up with that, I guess. I would say. That's the addendum that I would add to that.
No, I think that's fair. I think that may have stemmed from the concern on their part that the Sixers were not going to honor whatever, understanding that they had, that it wasn't just going to come, here's the full max, here's 4 years, whatever. But I also understand how that could be frustrating if you feel like you did this organization a solid and then they are going tough shit. I am obviously, as a person on strike, very pro labor, but that's a good lesson in not assuming that they're gonna get the loyalty back to you. So don't do something for them without the possibility of them going like, well, if you don't play well enough, we're not going to do that. And so as a Sixers fan, I'm happy that they didn't offer him a 4-year max. That would have sucked. But yeah, it's just unpleasant all around. And you're sort of just sitting here looking around going like, our last hope is either Daryl pulls something out of his hat, which doesn't seem to be likely. He hasn't, the Harden trade happening in the first place for Ben was, in some ways a miracle, but I guess hopefully that happens again. Or that it's just like, how good of a coach is Nick Nurse, or how bad of a coach was Doc? Like that becomes the question, because the Sixers team is clearly, as of right now, although Daryl said don't look at the roster, so everybody close their eyes. This team is not better than last year in any way. They've lost depth. Some of them have gotten older in the wrong way. They have a year more of disappointment under their belts. The fan base is pissed. All that stuff. That's stuff that you can't really pin on Pat Beverly and Mo Bamba and Philip Petrushev. So it's got to be Nick. How bad of a coach is Doc? How good of a coach is Nick? So maybe it makes some difference, or maybe that just the ball bounces a different way. But as of right now, like, it's hard to imagine anything going well because of how obviously upset James is and will continue to be. He's not just going to get over it.
Yeah, I think the just a couple of things. The handshake agreement, as it were, I think exists in the same way, and we'll maybe get to this later if we get to voicemails, in the same way that the was Halliburton available sort of thing, in that I don't know, who knows what really existed, or what vague thing they think existed, or what middle ground, whether Daryl Morey said to James Harden, yes, do this and we will make sure to give you a big contract, or it was just sort of something that they all thought. But to your point, whether James and his team acted the way that they did during the season because they felt like it wasn't going to happen, which doesn't sort of make that much sense because Harden was playing pretty well, or because because there wasn't as much of an agreement as we assumed there was. Even in retrospect, the deal that Harden opted out of and then opted back into ended up making him more money than he probably would have made if he had opted into that deal. He opts into that deal, he gets like $42 million. And as we could see, there was not much of a market for him this offseason. So he ended up with $72 million in 2 years, which he probably wouldn't have gotten if he did not sign that 1+1. All that said, this is just, I would say this. MOC did right that he just wants this over with. He doesn't want to spend half of the last 2 years in a hostage situation, one with Ben Simmons and one with James Harden. I would say that I support Daryl in just fucking calling everyone's bluff here. They are in such a precarious position from that you just, if it comes down to Nick Nurse, that's probably like whether the coach is good enough. I don't think that would be even as great a coach as he is. I don't want to bet on that. I am fine with Daryl calling everyone's bluff on this. I'm fine with him calling Harden's bluff. I'm fine with him calling the Clippers bluff. I think the Clippers are in as precarious a situation as the Sixers are, maybe more precarious with the new arena right there and Kawhi and Paul George at the end of their contracts. And if this does get them one extra first round pick, there's death by 1,000 cuts, and then in the same way that there could be victory by 1,000 non-cuts. So I don't know. I would,
that old chestnut.
If a shitty next couple of months and James Harden coming into camp with a fat suit and crying publicly, I'm fine with all that stuff. It's been 10 years of shit. Get me one extra first round pick.
I disagree that it's as simple as a difference of one first round pick, but we have an advertisement to discuss.
Oh, wow.
Toss to you.
Wow, look at that.
You told me to watch out for it. I watched out for it, and I tossed you to the ad.
The Rights of Ricky Sanchez is brought to you by Mortgage CS. We actually I've been waiting to play this, and I forgot to play it. We got a voicemail from a happy Mortgage CS and Ricky customer. So here we go.
Hey, Spike, Mike, CJ, and Daryl. This is AJ from Massachusetts. Called in a couple months ago about Mortgage CS and how great they were helping, even though they don't actually have services in this market quite yet. They're almost there.
I think I might have played this already, but I'll play it again.
As I was getting ready to lock in my mortgage back in early May, like the 5th or 6th, I was shopping around, couldn't find anything that was good. Felt like people were feeding me bullshit and giving me rates that were like 6.9 and 7, no matter where I looked. Was still talking to Alec and Ben. Ben actually on his own cold called around to other brokers in Massachusetts for me and found me a 6.475. Unbelievable guy. Unbelievable service. We close on Tuesday. Go Sixers. Please don't fuck up the draft. And
sorry.
God help us all.
Wow. That's nice.
Yeah. Mortgage CS, look, as they exhibited with him, Mortgage CS, they only care about you. A lot of mortgage brokers, now the difference between a lender and a broker, lender gives you the money, the broker goes and finds you the money. The difference between Mortgage CS and a lot of mortgage brokers is that mortgage brokers have deals with those lenders that you don't really even know about. So they may have a different motivation than just getting you the best rate. But Mortgage CS is only obligated to you. They're independent, they are responsive, they are cool, and you can have the CEO's cell phone number. 267-391-7425. That is Ben, the CEO's cell phone number. You can call or text him at any time. They'll always be available to you. 267-391-7425, or go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky to schedule a conversation with them. They're truly, truly great people. And the difference between, I didn't realize, like, you don't think about these things. The difference between like 6.475 and 6.9% over 30 years on a house is a massive, massive, massive difference. So you want every advantage you can get, and Mortgage CS will get that for you. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky or call or text Ben 267-391-7425. If you don't believe me, you should look at all the 5-star reviews on Google. Again, mortgagecs.com/Ricky. This advertisement, not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information.
So here's why I disagree with the 1 first-round pick thing, because I don't think it's tenable to trade James Harden to anyone for role players. And that's what the Clippers package currently is. There's no one in there that, unless Paul George becomes available, which I was hopeful he would be early on. It seems like that's very far off from being the case, despite how much I hope it. Everybody on the Clippers that we'd be getting back would be a role player type person. But if you can wait long enough to where Harden would at least expand his list and go, okay, I don't want to go there, but I would consider going somewhere else, like a Chicago or a Toronto, then you could get guys that are not role players, even if they're not, at their peak as starry as James Harden was, let's say. So that to me means DeRozan, who I've talked about a lot, Siakam, who has been rumored, and if Daryl's still like looking. They keep hinting at the offseason, next offseason. We've done this list before, but Pascal and DeMar are 2 of the best free agents available next offseason. So if those are the 2 of the guys in their plans, who knows if they are? It seems like they might not be.
By the way, potentially Jaylen Brown, as people have emailed us and reminded us, who has not signed an extension.
So it's Drew Holiday, it's PG and Kawhi, it's Jaylen Brown, Pascal, DeMar, and now PJ Washington, who took the qualifying offer, who's obviously not a star level player, but a nice one. If that means like Drew is good, but pretty old and would be an off ball guy. I don't see him as like a star level replacement for James Harden. PG and Kawhi, I hope that one of them would shake free and the Clippers decide not to pay them, but it seems like odds are they'll stay. Pascal, DeMar, Peter, is it all? Are we hinging the entire thing on Jaylen Brown? Like, it just, to me, if the idea of just like the only cap space thing to me is, I just really don't like it. I don't like how improbable it is to just count on someone leaving the team that they're on and coming deciding to come here. And obviously that does also like punt a season. And if that season is, well, even if we're punting the season, we'd rather punt the season with a chance at a championship with James Harden here. And I just don't think that mindset of maybe it's kind of half a punt, but at least we have still Harden, Maxey, Embiid. So it's like kind of not. I just don't think that that's going to work in any way because he's so clearly pissed off and so clearly not going to perform for this team when in the last couple seasons and much of his career, him not being like all in on a team is what has undone him in playoff games all the time. So it's frustrating. So I would love if there's a trade like in the framework of a Harden for Siakam type thing, then you can move Tobias and PJ to like create some space there up front. I think DeMar DeRozan is obviously a worse player than James Harden, but at least makes more sense positionally and allows Maxey to take a step forward with ball handling.
Why would the Bulls do that?
Because they're bad. And Harden's a better player than DeRozan, and they're both expiring.
That seems, I guess. I can't imagine that the Bulls are going to go, well, we'll just trade this expiring 34-year-old for this other expiring 34-year-old because he's marginally better and he may or may not want to be here. I guess
I think it would depend on Harden then going like, oh, okay, this is an interesting place for me or something.
I think
Chicago's in a little bit of hell, so I would disagree that they wouldn't. I mean, they should. The Sixers, with how you feel about DeMar as like a cornerstone guy for this season at least, and if you can get him on a smaller contract than you would have to get Harden on, maybe be interesting. But I just think that there's a they keep going back to the. I'll let you finish. Sorry, but they'll keep going back to. Well, it's like championship is the only thing, and Daryl's not gonna make something that's going to give them less of a percentage chance of winning a championship. And I just think that is more, it's less tangible than they are believing it to be. And there's something about the guys coexisting and there being like a positive vibe and momentum forward to something around the team. And there's just no chance of that happening with James Harden. The percentage chance of them winning a championship with James Harden on this team this season is 0.
Oh, I agree.
It is absolutely 0. And so I understand not trading Harden for role players, but I also think that there are other guys that are like near stars, which Harden is at this point in his career when it counts, a near star, that could make the roster make more sense, that could have there just being more of a holistic team environment out there. And that depends on Nick Nurse being a better coach, and also Tyrese Maxey taking a big step forward in a way that the team can still at least move forward into something that looks like a positive momentum. With, again, the guy who was the MVP, who obviously had a pretty rough second round of the playoffs, but I feel like I'm the only one saying this, and this maybe is loser behavior, but he sprained his knee and he came back after a week. It's a month-long injury. Like, I'm pissed at Joel for how he played. I think it sucks, but I think you also have to go like in that series specifically, he came back from a sprained knee after a week, and that doesn't happen.
I guess Giannis came back with some sort of fucked up back and scored 50 points. So
absolutely,
I
don't. I just want it to be added more to the discourse than it is. I think we could still say like he still has to be better, and that's what championship level players do.
Yep.
But I do think it has to be. It should be said more than it is being said.
I think we are mostly on the same page with the Harden thing. I do not want to see him back. And when I say an extra first round pick, I guess what I'm saying is
that's what MOC said in the article.
Yeah, I am mostly saying I will wait as long as it takes to get the best return possible for him. And I don't think waiting 2 months means they will get. I don't think that they can get any less return that they're being offered right now. Like right now is there's no urgency for anybody. The Clippers feel no urgency because they're like, we'll just wait. He's going to be fucking a disaster when he comes to camp. Like, we'll just wait. He wants to come here anyway. And the Sixers are like, we'll just wait. The Clippers need him anyway. So whatever the result is, whether it's more teams, whether it's the Clippers being more willing. And by the way, I agree that I think there's two ways to look at the year if it's not a championship year. I think you can look at it as a throwaway year, but also I think they were like close to a 50-win pace without Ben the year that it was, and that was a worse Maxey, So I think Joel is better now and Maxey is better now. And depending on what the returns are from a role player or role player plus or whatever it is perspective, I think you could have a good year without being a championship contender and without just relying on the idea of free agency. And I don't know that they are. I think he says that a lot, but I don't know if he actually thinks that, meaning Morey, that they're relying on cap space or whatever. I think it's more flexibility than signing some giant free agent.
I think that's fair. I think cap space doesn't just mean free agent, but it's hard to know. It's weird to hear someone, a president, saying that.
Yes, that hey, we might be good in 2 years, maybe not this year. Yeah. So,
but he's trying to thread the needle, and I just think that there's ways to keep that needle threaded. Like if you trade Harden for Siakam and then move, either one or both of Tucker and Tobias, then Maxey, Melton, somebody that you get for Tucker and or Tobias, Siakam, Embiid, is an interesting team that is more versatile than the team that they have now. And really, again, a lot is going to depend on Maxey taking another step forward in any iteration of Harden not being here. But I just think that the present situation is not a tenable one, and I'd rather see if they're going to do a version of a half step, right, where they move Harden but still keep their powder dry for next season. I think that there's half steps that they can take, maybe not right now, but in like 2 months or something, that allow the Sixers to contend and not be such a nightmare. Waiting for the James Harden situation to resolve itself.
Yeah, sure. I think, yes, I agree. I just think that their potential return for Harden never gets to Siakam level.
I don't think so. Okay. Would you do it? Would you do Harden for Siakam right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In a second. And even if Siakam doesn't, even if he's like, I want to be an unrestricted free agent. but just having the advantage of having him here, I would, and I've never been a big Siakam guy, but for sure, I would trade Harden for Siakam in a second. I fucking can't stand James Harden. Bam, but this guy, so annoying. Speaking of Embiid, he did get married yesterday. That is what we suspected his tweet about 5 days was, and it looked like. Now, here are the players who I believe to be present based on pictures I saw on social media. Need any takes from you? Maybe you saw something different. I saw Maxey, Niang, Melton, Tobias Harris, and it seemed like Springer was there.
Yeah.
Have you seen anybody else besides those guys?
I haven't, but I did wake up pretty recently, so
I don't know. Do you think it's upsetting at all that Cork wasn't there? If he wasn't?
I think if Cork wasn't there, I'd be upset. But there's a chance he's just like, I'm in Turkey for the summer. I'm,
growing mustache.
Yeah, he's figuring stuff out. If he wasn't, if Korkmaz wasn't invited, that would be upsetting. Shake also.
They weren't close.
They were close by the end, for sure.
Okay.
They were close. For sure, they were close. But yeah, I would love to get the full invite list, and I'd love to get the full attendee list. That would be nice to see, and then a seating chart. Actually, give it all to me, if you don't mind.
Seating chart would be great. And I want to know how many. Do you think Michael Rubin got his own invite to spread out? Like,
he gets his own. He's like, okay, like sort of like the family members, like my mother-in-law gets 15 or something, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think Rubin did. I do think he did. Did you see the picture of him shirtless, by the way?
Embiid, no.
No, Michael Rubin.
Oh, yes. Well, I don't know whether I should talk about this or not.
I think you should.
I think a lot of
We got it. No one's listening.
Michael Rubin got divorced like a couple years ago.
Okay, I didn't know this.
Yeah, and it does.
That starts to make sense. Things start to make sense when you're just saying that one thing. Yeah,
right. So from everyone I know who knows him, and I know I would say a good number of people who know him pretty well, I do not. I've met him once or twice, maybe, very quickly.
Did he have a shirt on?
He had a shirt on. Everyone seems to have a really positive view of Michael Rubin who knows him, who I know. His behavior, a little cringy over the last couple of years, does sort of line up with a 40-year-old guy who just got divorced who has a bunch of money. Like being in great shape,
I think that's exactly right.
Throwing giant parties that are all over social media, yada, yada, yada. So I guess what I say to Michael Rubin is like, I cringe when I see it, but live your best life, bro. Like, you know, you're out there on the market and, you know, I guess it sort of adds up.
Yeah, it does. It definitely adds up. It just adds up in a way that makes my whole body get hives.
Yeah. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Briggs Auction. Man, I would love to see fucking Rubin go nuts on a Briggs Auction, estate auction once. Just get fucking every jacket that CJ wants. Michael Rubin's just at home chuckling, outbidding him.
That's good. I like that.
That's
a threat.
There are two auctions going on right now. BriggsAuction.com, BriggsAuction.com, or the Briggs Auction app in the App Store or Google Play. There are two going. There's an estates auction with a ton of amazing art. There's one thing in the collectible section that is an autographed and framed Campbell Soup label autographed by Andy Warhol, which is fucking really cool. There's always weird stuff at Briggs Auction. And there is an estate wine and spirits auction, which, as you may guess, has a little something for everyone. Briggs auctions basically every week, and you're going to get one-of-a-kind clothing items, collectibles, art, furniture, cool discussion pieces to have in your home. It is endorsed by me, it is endorsed by Mike, and it is endorsed by CJ. Again,
and the hat I'm currently wearing.
What's that? Oh, and the hat you're currently wearing. Yes, of course. BriggsAuction.com, or download the app, the Briggs Auction app. You can, if you win an auction, it's a thrill. You can pick up by appointment, or Saturdays is open pickup, or they'll work with a shipper and get it to your home. And if you have a bunch of stuff in a estate auction, maybe somebody died, unfortunately, and you got a bunch of stuff and you don't want it, send an email to info@briggsauction.com. That is info@briggsauction.com. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. So, Mike, you remember the tenant, of course.
Of course, yeah.
And the tenant sent us an email that he wrote a song.
Is he okay?
He's fine.
Maybe the writing a song sort of belies an indication that he's not. But
no, he's
other
fine.
Than that,
yeah, he joked that he loved reliving that situation on Ricky X. It was thanked us. Now he did a parody song of "We Didn't Start the Fire" by Billy Joel. Now that song's existence in itself is sort of a parody, and Fall Out Boy has done an updated version of it that is meant to be serious, but is also sort of a parody. But this is Sixers related. I was reminded via email by a gentleman named Chris that 5 years ago for the Ricky 5th year anniversary, there was a parody of "We Didn't Start the Fire" called "We Want the Collar Fired," which we played a part of at the time. So, Mike, I bring you the longer than you can believe.
Oh no, I'm cringing before it even happens.
Yes, everyone. So this, if you're listening and you've heard this before, a lot of people loved it. Most people said we had to play it at least one more time so you could hear it.
That's a lie.
This is a watch moment. You got to go to YouTube or Spotify. The video, you have to watch Mike listen to "We Didn't Start the Process" by The Tenant. Here we go.
Holiday to New Orleans, traded him for Nerlens, first round draft picks, MCW. Hinky's got the longest view, Brett Brown develops you, Tony Broughton, lefty floater, Hollis Thompson too.
That's Take notes.
Embiid's navicular, Dario won't come over. Santa Lodge and Okafor, Cannon 72. Adam Silver saving face, Colangelo the outer snake, spineless owners, fake GM, Sir Samuel Hinkie goodbye. We didn't start the process. There was always tanking since the lottery's cranking. We didn't start the process. But we'll pick Brandon Davies over endless 80. Simmons shoots in Summer League debut from Embiid. Malcolm Brogdon stolen valor for Concord Moss DLC. Pick swap, Danny Ainge, Fultz's jumper sure looks strange. Armageddon anyway. Can we sign LBJ? Haka Simmons, JJ, KOC band say the name. Trevor Booker lick face. Mark Calbreaks, Joel's face. TJ McConnell, January. Ilyasova, Bellinelli. Bad too good, way too quick. Second round exit.
That was pretty good. That was a good section right there. That's all right.
Now you might think at minute 137.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a great decision. We didn't start the process.
Yes.
We will not forget him because he died for our sins. Eric Jr. Dietrich, uncouth sources Alvic, Bob Rotini smoking gun, normal collar 91, Elton Brand free agency, Bielitsa hates Philly, Michael Bridges, Isaiah Smith, 1A, 1B Sesame. Jimmy Butler game winner, Fultz shooting from the floor. Toby, Bobby, thank you, Rocco. Jimmy versus Brett Brown. JoJo Windmill cash down. Kawhi hit the shot. Sixers hit high water mark.
We're only in 2018, 2019.
There was
There's 4 years left.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's only there's still a minute and a half left.
Okay.
always tanking since the lottery's cranking. We didn't start the process. But we'll pick Brandon Davies over endless 8 seats. Al Horford, Tony T, Harris, Mr. 180. Daniel House, Bubble Sacks, swept by the Celtics. Glenn Rivers, Maury, Ben Simmons, it's a 3. Jonah Bolden, NFTs, Mike Muscala, Maxi. Embiid, Eleni, Kevin Herter, Seth Curry. Open lane, pass away. What else do I have to say? We didn't start the process. Hinkie's vision was a great decision. We didn't start the process. We will not forget him because he died for our sins. Simmons goes to Cali, tells the team don't visit me. Halliburton, Brad Beal, James Harden will do. P-ball ball, victory tour, Frosty freezes no more. Thibault, anti-vax, lost in round 2. PJ Tucker, tampering, stadium is moving. Mac McClung, minivan, Wayne Dedman back again. MD, MVP, Jokic, gets a ring. Losing culture, full circle, I can't watch it anymore. We didn't start the process. There was all
I have to say, Dave Hartley from War on Drugs texted me shortly after that pod came out when we played it last week and said he had listened to it 8 consecutive times and it was all he ever wanted to listen to ever again.
I have a lot of things to say about it. It's doing a We Didn't Start the Fire parody is one of the most cringe things that anyone could do. And yet it absolutely won me over by the end of it.
Yes.
I think it was very thorough. It was pretty well done. I didn't necessarily love that the guy was whispering the song from his closet.
It makes it better.
You could think that he would be able to do it more full-throatedly. He was being pretty quiet there. But, I also would recommend therapy instead of doing this. Men would literally do We Didn't Start the Fire parody instead of going to therapy.
It's so good, though.
But it is good, and it's very thorough, and it did make me nearly emotional by the end. Once, like the Kawhi shot, and then like the Kevin Herter. What else do I have to say about the Simmons pass? Like, it's really all in there, and it is pretty well done. I didn't expect it to be one over, but I think
was a nice line in there.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. So kudos to the tenant. I hope your life is in a better place. But I really didn't expect it to be one over, but I was.
So then there's a gentleman named Dan who sent us a happy 10th birthday email. And I did read this last time, but I feel like you have to hear it. He says, I made some music inspired by Coach Mike and Mike playing basketball segments. I imagine Mike will hate it as much as Andrew Unterberger hates his theme music. I can also tell you, going back from the samples, that the bell sound was used a bunch during the 1-2-1 zone story, but I think it was agreed that as for basketball playing anecdotes, I only use the bell sample and the player mic music. I've listened to the word coach so many times, it doesn't sound like a word, and I still don't know what a boxing one is, but I don't care enough to look it up. So here is song one. I believe. What?
Boxing one is very simple.
Yes.
You play one person plays man to man on the other team's best player, and the rest of the team is in a zone shaped like a box.
Yeah, yes. It is a like a 2-2 zone basically, with one person playing man to man. So here is the player mic song.
I play like this. I don't play like that. I'm pretty intense.
Mike playing basketball. Mike playing basketball.
I'm in my prime. Honestly,
Sign me. Oh no. Oh no. I didn't realize it was gonna be quotes from me. That's even worse.
And then here's the Coach Mike one.
I coach basketball in Los Angeles.
Coach Mike.
Coach Mike. I ran a 1-2-1 zone. Coach my ass off. That's fun. I like how short it is, and it's a fun little jingle before I tell any of my little rec league stories.
Yeah. So excuse me 1 second. I had to clear my throat. There we go. So in the newsletter, the Rice Ricky Sanchez newsletter, the stateside Corner 3 newsletter done by Zoe, Mike and I rotate writing week to week. He writes something, then I write something, he writes something. So it's his week.
RiceRickySanchez.com/newsletter to subscribe.
There you go. Look at you. And you wrote a thing. You were like, here is how I would redo the offseason if I were Daryl.
Just the end of the bench.
Okay.
Not the Harden, not the Tobias, not that
right.
stuff.
So to me, what it really did was highlight what a disastrous, like the bad situation that they are in. Because essentially what it was, you agreed to let Niang go. You agreed to let Shake Milton go. You basically said, you basically admitted they couldn't let Trez go. I mean, you were like, lose his phone number, blah, 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 blah. But they couldn't.
No, I did not admit that.
Well, but that, I mean, it's true. It's basically true that that's what happened.
I will never admit that. I will never and could never possibly admit it.
It was basically like re-sign McDaniels, convert Traquavion Smith to a regular Sixers contract instead of a two-way, and sign Javonte Green.
Was there something else? And
I mean, there's other like two-way stuff in there.
Well, I kept Jalen McDaniels. Did you say that?
Yes.
Jalen McDaniels or like a Malik Beasley type of set, which would be a better contract than he got from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's reshuffle. They have 17 centers. like it doesn't seem hard to do. Dow keeps saying, "Don't look at the roster." I don't know how sustainable of a strategy that is for the entire season. Eventually, we will have to know who's on the team and who is playing. But for now, okay. But there's ways to make. There's interesting stuff happening at the bottom of the roster, and there could be more interesting stuff if there was a couple more creative moves. I don't think Petrusev is very good. I would love to throw him in a deal for something else.
He does seem like, we talked about this with Adam last time, his deal is similar to
Trevelyan
Queen's, and it seems like they could cut him if they wanted to.
Yeah. I would try to do that. I would try to get some more interesting guys here. Javonte Green would be interesting here. I did like Javonte Smart in Summer League. I thought that was interesting. Basically, like between Tubelis, I think Turk Smith is good enough to be on a main roster now. That was an incredible undrafted free agent pickup, and a good job by the Summer League team to make him, like, feature him and allow him and just make him look like, hey, this guy's a player. He could have easily gone in the mid-30s and nobody would have blinked an eye. So it's a nice pickup. Make him a regular roster player before you depend on him too much as a two-way guy, and then you have to pay him more or whatever. In next offseason or something. And then, I'm not a Ricky Council guy right now. The jumper's so bad, and I think Tubelis isn't good. and I think Petrushev could go somewhere else, and Montrez really should never have been allowed. I would have moved this. I would have moved the team, move the practice facility, go somewhere else. Like, don't let him know. Eventually, tell him the wrong date for all the games. Like, there's no way that this should have happened in any way. He really was one of the worst 3 players in basketball last year. And obviously serves no purpose on this team, on this roster, taking up a spot when you could have an interesting young guy that in the future could become someone that someone wants in a trade where they can go like, oh, that's a sweetener. Like, it's just those kinds of things where you keep going right now, like, man, what are they going to trade with Tobias, or what are they going to trade with Harden or whatever? And you go like Springer, like, you just keep naming stuff. Just having a young guy that is even theoretically, even fakely getting better makes other teams go to their fan base and go like, we got this young guy, he's interesting. And no one obviously would say that of Montrezl Harrell at this point in his career, and just like get accruing some young guys for end of bench stuff. I've said that 75 times. So hopefully that's sinking in somewhere.
There's actually a good, the Hard to Stomach YouTube comment of the week is actually good and related to this. We'll talk about it right after we talk about Big Barker therapeutic dog beds.
Yeah.
My wife has been away all weekend, and what I try to get Rebel to do when my wife isn't there is I like when Rebel sleeps in the bed with me, but he does not do it. He sleeps in the Big Barker. He would I have a fucking nice Tempur-Pedic bed that it was too much money, and he would rather sleep in the Big Barker.
Wow.
It says a lot. Big Barker.
But he doesn't do that when your wife is there either. He sleeps in the Big Barker no matter what.
Yes, Big Barker no matter what. So there's all this extra space in the bed, and he will not take it. He would rather be in the Big Barker.
You just want a large body next to you, and he's not abiding.
Yes. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's a dog or my wife.
Doesn't matter. Anybody. Big pillow.
Yeah. If anybody would like to volunteer when my wife is away, hop in the bed because Rebel won't do it.
There's like a weird shaped shelf. Anything.
There's an enormous difference between the Big Barker and the other dog beds you see. And the enormous difference is that a Big Barker is a real bed that keeps your dog healthier. I know it sounds crazy, but it is true. And there's a serious difference. That serious difference was shown Penn Vet did a study that shows the difference, and you can see it just by looking at it. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky, bigbarker.com/Ricky. One of the things that I think you notice when you look at is when you see a dog on a Big Barker, you see a dog on a dog bed that you see at a dog store or a pet store or whatever, they're way off the ground on the Big Barker. And it's because it's a real mattress. It's supportive. And you think about how you feel as a person if you sleep in a shitty mattress, or imagine you just slept on a giant pillow. It'll feel nice as you fell asleep. You feel like shit when you woke up. And imagine being a dog. You sleep like 17 hours a day. You need a Big Barker. There is a big difference between that and every other dog bed. And quite simply, if you want to give your dog the best, most healthy, most happy life possible, they need a Big Barker. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. You get the Big Barker dog bed. You get 2 processed pup patches. Your dog gets to be a processed pup. Hello? Yes. Keeps your dog healthier, keeps your dog happier. 10-year warranty. The foam won't flatten or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, if your dog doesn't like it, they will give you a full refund and pay for shipping. It's handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. The Hard to Stomach YouTube comment of the week comes from Brandon McEwen 7190. The whole quote, "you shouldn't worry about the roster in July" thing is such a BS argument. 95% of all the offseason transactions happen in late June to early July between the draft and the start of free agency. So excuse us if we're uneasy watching the rest of the league make transactions while we sit on our hands and sign Pat, Bev, and 4 backup centers. Well said, yeah. I thought.
Very well said.
Absolutely well said.
I think it's interesting that a lot of... I'm interested to see what the next move is in the NBA, because Dame and Harden, I think, have really frozen everything. And people go on vacation now anyway. If you remember, the Andrew Bynum trade happened in like early to mid-August.
Yep.
Out of nowhere. So just the 2 like very major tent-pole players being held up by a trade request is interesting for the rest of the league. But there's still a couple of guys that are interesting. I wonder if the Sixers are going to use their mini mid-level. Yeah, we'll see.
833 Lickface is the voicemail number.
Because they still have a roster spot open.
We do, yeah.
Hey guys, PJ here. Calling in because there's been a lot of speculation about Tyrese Halliburton and how we could have maybe traded for him instead of James Harden. I'm suggesting that we put a ban on this conversation on the pod, in our minds, wherever. I don't think it's helpful. Two reasons. One is we don't know if he was actually offered. There's so much speculation, misinformation. Who knows? Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Maybe they wanted Maxey and all our picks along with Simmons. It's impossible to know, so it's not even worth really considering it to be true. I don't know why they would have wanted Ben Simmons for Halliburton in any way. They wanted the ball in Fox's hands. Why would they want a guy that can't do anything off ball? But beyond Halliburton, I think we need to protect ourselves. One day, I'm sure the Ricky will have a pod that reviews all the major what-if moments of the process. And there's already so many heartbreaking things that definitely happened on that list. I don't think we need to be adding hypothetical things to it. We should just be lucky we got off Ben's contract, because there's an alternate reality where we never made the trade and things are worse. And he's moping around the practice facility with a phone in his pocket. Have a good one, guys. Hopefully we'll get through this season too.
You know what this reminds me of? The Halliburton situation reminds me of the owners made Hinkie take Okafor instead of Porzingis thing, which is unproven. It is also something we would like to believe, but I don't know if I totally believe, actually, because I fully believe Hinkie could heat check and say, I'm going to take this guy and then trade him for something better in Okafor thing.
Yeah.
And I always get annoyed.
I'm sure parts of both things were true.
Correct. And I think he makes a good point that if Halliburton was offered, and there are differing opinions on that, we also those things are so fluid that we don't know what he was offered for, and we don't know the extent of what that trade was.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely, he said it's not helpful. It's definitely, nothing's helpful. Nothing that we're doing is helpful. So take anything being helpful off the table.
Fair.
I just love Tyrese Halliburton as a player, and I love the idea of pairing him and Maxey together with Embiid and having like a young, like zippy core around this like incredible but more ground bound aging Joel. And Harden just accelerated that timeline so much, whereas Ben was younger and all that stuff. Yes, it is good that they got off of the Ben contract, which is now the worst contract in the league. But I think Halliburton could have. I don't think there's this idea of someone being available or not available. Like pretty much everyone is available for the right price. Yeah, and the fact that Sacramento turned around and traded Halliburton for Sabonis shortly after makes me think that whether the discussions were had or only a little bit like banded around, the GM of the Kings is Monty McNair, who is Daryl's friend and former coworker. Had they gone down the road of it, I think that a trade could have happened. Whether that was Daryl probably thought at the time Ben should be more valuable than Halliburton because of his stature and his contract and whatever. But even if they traded Ben and 2 firsts and Seth and Drummond for Harden, if a Halliburton trade was, say it was even no picks involved, it was just 1 for 1, I think the Kings probably would have done something like that. They traded Halliburton for another, big man that can't shoot in Sabonis. So it's a different look. I'm not saying Ben could slide right into the Sabonis role, but I'm sure that
he would have to play.
He would have to play. That's important.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something that could have been done there. It seemed like Daryl was more just laser focused on Harden, which I think looking back now was a mistake.
833 Lickface is the number.
Hi, Spike, Mike, and BJ. This is Josh Harris, longtime, first time. I'm having an issue with Spike right now. A few pods back, he was saying that if I matched the Paul Reed offer sheet, that he would start saying really good things about 76th place. So haven't heard anything yet. I know you guys did your little 2-part 10th anniversary pods, and you had that pod with the teenager from WIP, but I'm still waiting, Spike. I haven't heard any good things about 76th place. I'm still waiting, okay? I will buy this podcast. I will buy all the rival podcasts as well. Basketball question. Do you think the Sixers fan will be upset if I try to buy the Celtics? Non-basketball question. Do you think the Phillies fans would be upset if I tried to buy the Mets? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
Did he already try to buy the Mets? I think he did.
There was conversation, I think.
I just want to be clear. My statement, and I was very careful about the way that I said it, was if they match the Paul Reed contract, if anyone asks me, I will be positive about the new arena.
Spike, how do you feel about the new arena?
I think it's a great idea. I think that area could use, some revitalization. It'll be great for the community.
Okay. How do you feel about an arena right in the middle of Boathouse Row?
Well, it depends on what the Sixers are trying to do at the time. I agreed to support 76th Place where the Fashion District is. So
fair.
When someone asked
I thought that was
me,
funny. Did the fact that Washington Commanders, and they might change the name, fans are like cheering for Josh Harris is very funny to me.
I do like too that Josh Harris bought everyone did you see the buy everyone a beer bit that they did? Yeah. Wonder where that
and it's like, look, he's not Dan Snyder, and that's good.
Yes, he's much better than Dan Snyder.
So that's good for them. But I don't know. There's quotes about him like he really wants to get this thing right, and it's like he owns like 17 teams. Who gives a shit? He doesn't give a shit. He would like the status of someone winning, but he doesn't. Do you think he's going to show up? Like he comes to a lot of Sixers games. Do you think he's going to start going to Washington games the way that he does?
Oh yeah, if there's 16, if 17 of them, I think he'll be there. I think he'll be there at all the games. Yeah, I think
I would love for there to be a big game that he missed that he has to decide between.
I think the reality of talking about owners is there anyone really, like the number of owners where fans are like, man, I fucking love that owner, best owner ever. It's like a super small percentage. So I think the jump from Dan Snyder to literally anyone would seem like they're being rescued.
Yeah. Do you think should we as Sixers fans root for Washington to be okay?
All Harris Blitzer. I'm a Devils fan.
You're a 4-for-4 Harris Blitzer.
Yeah. I love Joe Gibbs' NASCAR team.
My 4-for-4 is Sixers, Commanders, Devils, and whatever soccer team he owns.
Yes, and the Joe Gibbs NASCAR team.
And races, so 5-for-5. It's a classic 5-for-5. I would love some T-shirt company to make the kind of like 4-for-4 Philly teams that you are, except I'm 4-for-4 Josh Harris. Blitzer. That's it. That's my rooting interest. I just love them. I just love the culture that they set.
We will end on this from William, and I asked Adam about this, but he was uncomfortable answering, as it is about you. This comes from William, writes rickysanchez@gmail.com. How the fuck are we just going to gloss over that Mike gets completely naked to poop? How are we supposed to accept any of his bathroom etiquette advice? This must be addressed, and I'm sure I'm not the only one asking. Thank you, and have a good day.
I don't. If I said it, it was a joke.
Oh, because we did get this, actually.
Hey, Spike, Mike, and CJ. This is Nick in Tennessee here. Just had to stop the pod after listening to the tidbit in which Mike wasn't able to defend himself on the being fully naked while going number 2 thing. I'm just here to say you guys were making it out to seem insane. Yeah, if you're in public at Home Depot dropping a deuce in the stall in a public restroom, yeah, that's a little weird. I don't think that's what Mike's talking about. When I'm at home, just by myself, I'd say at least 75 to 80% of my number 2s are fully nude. You're at home, you're walking around in boxers, maybe a t-shirt. Yeah, I'm stripping down. It feels really good. You're shedding weight. It's glorious. And, for a guy who like Mike has some bowel issues, sometimes you feel gross having clothes on. You want to shed all that because, you might be there for a while. You might get a little sweaty. I'm fully team Mike on this one. Thanks. Love the pod.
Poor guy had no idea you were kidding.
No, I mean, I hear he makes a compelling case, I think. I would say that when I'm not feeling well, when I'm feeling like very like either sick or like just it's so hot, like just getting all the clothes off helps, I would say. Yes, never in public, although one time I got it was my senior dinner at college, whatever, some senior dinner at college, and I got too drunk at it. And I was in a public campus center bathroom and took all my clothes off to throw up because I was so hot and not feeling well. So that happened. But Yeah, he makes a compelling case, and I do. There's something about like having your clothes that you're wearing away from your poop. I think that adds up to me. If you're at home, just moving your clothes away from the poop and pee area makes sense.
Well, we'll talk to you next time.
I might start doing it more.
Adam seemed to know somebody who did it in public.
Whatever you need to feel comfortable and less shame doing what you got to do. I think that is positive, and I support it.
We will talk to you next time. I think Thursday, right? Yeah, I think so. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.
Where's the